Here we go. I want to start learning this Sefer. It's really a Haggadah. It's the Haggadah of Reb Shimshon Pincus. And people that know me know I'm a big fan of Reb Shimshon Pincus. I've listened to a lot of his shiurim. I've read a lot of his books. And I've been using this Haggadah for a number of years. I think it's amazing. It's awesome. It's got halacha. It's got musar. It's got the actual Haggadah in there. It's quite thick, but it's also an amazing piece of work. So I'm going to learn it. And you guys can listen on and learn along with me if you want, because I think there's a lot of great lessons to be learned from here. Now that Rosh Chodesh Nisan is coming up, just in now it's in a few hours tonight. So okay, I want to start learning, and we'll go through it slowly. Try to get a little bit from each part of the Haggadah. Start with Bedikas Chametz is where he begins. He starts a little bit about Hachana, what the preparation for Pesach looks like, but I want to start with Bedikas Chametz because I thought this piece over here was beautiful. He starts with a fundamental question, and the question is, there's something very curious about this Isser of Chametz. He says, "Lefnei Chag Pesach anu yogiyim bebir Chametz." Before Pesach, we burn our Chametz, and afterwards we check every single corner of the room to make sure that there's no Chametz, because we don't want to be over the Isser of Bal Yiroi Bal Yimatzei. And he says it really is an interesting concept, right? Chametz is not really anything that's so bad. I mean, the entire year, 2 days ago it was Shabbos, and I picked up 2 pieces of bread, and I made a hamaitzi, and Givaldik, it was delicious, and I was yotzei, number one, the Mishnah, the Lechem Mishnah, I was yotzei, I made a bracha hamaitzi, I was yotzei Suda Shabbos with that. I mean, think about how many mitzvahs I did with these pieces of bread. And yet Pesach comes, and all of a sudden, Isser Kares. Even a little bit, Isser Kares, you're done. I mean, what's going on over here? Every corner you have to go and make sure the thing that's completely mutter throughout the entire year, it's so usher throughout on Pesach that you have to make sure every corner of your house is rid of it. What's going on over here? So he brings a beautiful example over here. He says that Pesach, things that are generally kosher during the rest of the year, are not in Pesach. Think about a painting. A painting, there's 2 ways to do a painting. He says, either how are you able to paint a drawing? He said one way to do it is to make a maruchim meruchavim, to draw lines, to draw out a sketch. And the sketch will give you the big picture of the painting. But he said, if the next way to do it is to draw every single detail of the painting, even to the smallest detail. And through that, you'll get this beautiful drawing, this beautiful painting, ultimately, in the end. So he said that's what's happening on Pesach, right? He said on Pesach, people say, throughout the year, listen, man, I daven 3 times a day. I sometimes I come late, sometimes I come early. He says, I learn every day, right? Sometimes I come late, sometimes I come early. But B'sach HaKol, I'm doing well. I'm a good Jew. I keep Shabbos. I don't drive my car on Shabbos. I don't turn on my phone on Shabbos. I daven 3 times a day. I learn, for a few minutes every day, and okay. And he says, he brings an example, Shalom Bayis as well. He says, Shalom Bayis still okay. There are arguments here, arguments there, but for the most part, we're happy, we're good, right? So I think the lesson he's trying to teach us here is a lesson of complacency. He said, yeah, we can be complacent. Yeah, but I'm doing well. I'm doing what I need to do. I'm going through my life, and I'm a Jew. I'm a frum Jew. He said, but that's Pesach teaches us that's the incorrect approach. The correct approach is not to look at the sketch, the big picture. The correct approach is to look at, in general, it is correct to take it to the big picture, which he'll talk about. But the correct approach is to look at the details. Just like by a painter, when he creates a painting, creates a drawing, he looks at the little details to try to make this beautiful, ultimately create this beautiful painting. So to us, we have to look at the details. Okay, we learn every day. Okay, we daven a few times every day. But are we davening well? Are we learning well? Are we coming on time? And so on and so forth. So to look at the details, the Pesach teaches us, just like you go to every corner of your house and you make sure every single speck of chametz is absent from your house and is completely burnt, so too we have to look at every detail of our service of God. Okay. And he goes on to say that's the way it works on Pesach. He says, of course, a person should know that the general picture is good as well. But he said there has to be a balance, right? There has to be a balance between looking at the big picture and looking at the details as well. But the lesson of Pesach specifically is to go ahead and focus on those details. And I want to do one more little part over here. he says something beautiful. It says, Chametz hu bitul yetzer hara. Every Mussar Rebbe will tell you, and we've all heard this before, it's not just about being mevatel the chametz, it's about being mevatel the chametz from our hearts, from our neshamas, right? And there's a lot of truth to that. The truth is that it's not just the physical chametz, but it's the spiritual chametz as well. And he says, what is the main tactic of the Yetzer Hara? The Yetzer Hara, the main tactic is atzlus, it's laziness. And he says, because if it wasn't for laziness, guess what? We'd be the most productive people in the world. If we didn't have a shred of laziness, that means we'd constantly be doing things. We'd constantly be doing productive things. But the problem is that, ein koyach. We don't have, he says, we don't have so much energy, right? He said if we were like malachim and we were made from fire, we'd constantly be jumping and running to do mitzvahs. But that's not the case. We have a Yetzer Hara, and the Yetzer Hara prevents us from constantly being productive. So he said, let's look at a piece of chazer, a piece of pig. Pig is something that most of us would never eat, right? We know we don't have it in our house the entire year, and we're not going to have it in our house on Pesach. It's treif. It's something that we never eat, right? So fine, I understand. Is there nevela, right? A nevela is the same thing. Yain nesach. Certain things are usher the entire year. We're not going to touch. When it comes to chametz, as we mentioned, we eat it all year, right? And now we can't eat it. So he says, look at the uniqueness of the Yisur of chametz. The Torah is telling us that if you want to build yourself to be like a Jew, kroiv mel Hashem yisbarach, and cling yourself to Hashem, then we have to rid ourselves even the things that we generally eat during the year. Because a Jew is special. And a Jew eats special things and acts in a special way. And yes, it's true that I just a couple days ago I had bread and I was yotzei many mitzvahs with it. And yes, it's true that the entire year you can have that cake and you can eat. I have plenty of it, trust me. And we can eat chametz and we can have all that delicious stuff. But the symbolism of Pesach is that whatever you ate during the year, you don't eat it now. You're a Jew, you're special. Whatever everyone else eats, you don't eat. The way that everyone else acts, you don't act that way. You act in a more proper way. You act in a better way. And he says one more thing. He says, imagine a violent movie. A violent movie is like eating cake. Everyone knows it's bad. Every Jew knows can't have pork, right? Every person knows you're watching a horror movie. It's like, okay, this is going to be pretty gruesome, right? But when it comes to, let's say, a cartoon, it's innocent. He says, right? There's nothing really wrong with it. He said, what's called normal during the year on Pesach is not, just like chametz. What's called normal during the year, chametz, delicious foods that we can have during the year on Pesach is not normal, just like the cartoon. The cartoon is normally no problem. It's a cartoon. It's innocent. But on Pesach, we have to take ourselves to a little more seriously. We have to even rid ourselves of those things, of the things that we call normal throughout the year. On Pesach, we don't indulge in. And he says, Erev Pesach, just ending off, you look at your bookshelf, and he says you have all these different types of books. What do? There are certain books that during the year, no problem, I can read it. But on Pesach, again, same concept. You put it to the side, and that's the idea. The idea is that on Pesach we act differently. On Pesach, yes, there are things that we're allowed to have during the year. Yes, there are things that are quote-unquote neutral. Yes, there is a concept of complacency. But on Pesach, we try to combat our urge to be complacent. We try to combat our urge to do things that are neutral and take ourselves to another level for the 8 days of Pesach. All right, shkoyach, we will stop there.